It's time for fun, learning, commentary, laughs, and more. Care of the most diverse group in the genealogy and family history world. Welcome to BlackProGen Live with your hosts, Nika and True, and the baddest panel in these pedigree streets: Angela, James, Linda, Alex, Ellen, Tony, Shelly, Teresa, Bernice, Felicia, Willie, Renata, and Tasia. It's BlackProGen Live, genealogy, family history research with flavor.
Hello and good evening, everyone out there. We just want to say welcome to BlackProGen Live tonight. My name is True Lewis, and I'm going to be your co-host for the evening. And we're going to talk about DNA tonight. I see everyone out in the chat room, and I welcome you from everywhere. So now I'm going to turn the mic over to your host, Nika Smith, who makes this all possible.
Hello, True Lewis.
Hey.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We have got a wonderful episode in store for you. Many of you have been commenting already about it online. So before we get too far into the subject matter, of course, we got to tell you what we're going to be talking about, right? DNA for genealogy can provide some huge wins, but also deliver unexpected news. In tonight's episode, we'll discuss the types of unsettling info one can encounter and ways to deal with potentially life-changing information. Thanks for joining us for the 58th episode of BlackProGen Live, airing tonight, entitled Paw, Not Paw, dealing with new unsettling info in DNA research. Love or hate our new look and feel for the show? Have a question or comment? Join the conversation now. Participate in the live chat on YouTube to the top right of the screen if you're watching on a computer, and at the bottom of the YouTube app on your mobile device. Also, feel free to weigh in on Twitter by tweeting us at BlackProGen or use the hashtag BlackProGen. Have you been like, man, I can't believe I missed that episode. I need a reminder. Well, here is your reminder to set reminders. All you need to do is head to my YouTube page and click Set Reminder under the episode you're interested in, or simply subscribe to the channel and you'll get a reminder each and every time we go live. Since 2013, the Midwest African American Genealogy Institute has provided an amazing learning experience for genealogists and researchers. The Institute, also commonly known as MAGI, is the only African American focused event offering a total of 48 classes over 3 days, offering a comprehensive genealogical educational experience of benefit for the beginner, the intermediate researcher, and the professional. Join us from July 10th through the 12th, 2018 at the Genealogy Center at the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, Indiana for the 6th installment of MAGI, the Teaching Institute. For more information and to register, please visit magiinstitute.org. And I also have to remind you that track 2A and 2B, which are beginning DNA and genealogy, and 2B, which is intermediate DNA and genealogy, are both full. So that means you only have track 1, which is fundamental methods and strategies, track 3, intermediate genealogy, pre and post-slavery era research, and track 4, genealogy writing from planning to publication, available to you to register. All right, let's go ahead and come off mute, panelists. I want to go ahead and introduce our first panelist that's on my little I don't know, we need to call it my film strip at the bottom. I guess that's the official name. We'll start with Angela Walton-Raji.
Okay, hello everyone. Coming to you this evening from a very rainy Eastern Seaboard out here on the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland. Hopefully the sun will be out tomorrow.
I hope so too. It's been raining quite a bit here, but neither one of us are mad because that's great for our garden.
Our garden.
Exactly.
Correct.
Exactly. We were just speaking, me and Angela have over 12 tomato plants, each of us. That means there's 24 tomato plants between us. And all of this wonderful rain means more tomatoes for us. So that's great. All right, next up, Ellen Fernandez-Sacco.
Hey, Ellen Fernandez-Sacco from rainy Tampa, and glad to be here.
All right, all right. Next up is Renata.
Hello, this is Renata from Newport News, Virginia. Just recently back from hot Texas. Did a number on my hair. So I hope y'all enjoying the ponytail tonight. Glad to be with you.
I am not my hair.
That's right. I am not my
humidity.
hair.
I am. I was gonna say, yeah, the humidity is so. Yeah, it's. God bless you, especially if you went out to Texas with straight hair. You are the real MVP.
I went with curls.
Okay, that was a smart decision. All right, Diana Ross has transitioned into curly this week. That would be Dr. Shelley Murphy.
Oh, the curls is because of the humidity. The hair swells. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see everybody here and coming to you from Virginia.
All right, next up, Boogie Down is Teresa.
Yes, it's Teresa, and it's also rainy here in uptown near the Boogie Down, New York City.
All right, next up is our boy in the Big Easy, our college student, Willie Russell.
Hey everybody, Willie Russell from New Orleans.
Ooh. Ooh.
He is currently out of school and enjoying his summer. Did you take my suggestion and actually go out and eat and do things?
Well, actually, I escaped the heat. I'm back at home in California.
Oh, excuse me. So we are in Oakland. Did you attend the Becky barbecue, or did you just watch from afar?
Watch from afar.
You watched from afar. Okay. FYI, don't try to buy the domain. My cousin already bought barbecuebecky.com. Oh. And all derivatives. He did. It was hilarious. True, go ahead and show your face. Let the people know you're here, baby.
I'm here. Coming from Kentucky at Fort Knox. I got my sticker on today because I had to vote.
All right. She exercised her civic duty.
Yes. So we're just here in the hot and humid, rainy area, but it's just good to see everybody out in that chat room. They are just going in. I can't even keep up.
I know. Chat room is cracking, as we would say in California. Chat room is cracking tonight. Yeah. There are folks coming from all over. Hello, Christine Varner, our buddy Sir Leprechaun Rabbit. Also, Shannon Christmas is in the chat room, of course, to provide support. Hey, Shannon. Hey, boo. Somebody named Starlight is there. Hello, Starlight. Erlen Sterling. Goodness, let's see. Gosh, seems like there's a lot of new people that are joining us.
There's somebody from Michigan in there.
Oh, look, Shelly's coming for you. Shelly's coming for you. Trisha Blount is there. Sharice Louis. Hello. Denise Muhammad. Hey, it's been a little while since we've seen her online. Katie C. representing New Jersey tonight. All right, Katie, thanks for joining us. Tammy Ozier, we love you. Maggie Alum. Carmen said that she wants to get Alice Walker to let us make Paw Not Paw t-shirts. Although, I'm trying to remember if she wrote those words if it was a part of the book or if it was a part of the movie. So we may need to.
I think it was in a letter from Celie to her sister.
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah.
Okay, we can work on her. She's been out. She wrote the intro to Bartercoon, so she might, we may be able to finesse that. And she lives in Oakland, so Willie, you can work on that. You can work on
okay. Summer homework.
Okay, that's so funny. Oh my gosh, yes. Let's see. Connecticut is represented. Oh, she's Teresa's cousin. That's Christine Barner. Cleopatra Gatlin. Hey, Shelby County. What's good? All right, y'all. We have got a doozy of an episode. Goodness gracious. Okay. We're talking DNA. Of course, DNA has always been a hot topic. It feels like it's consistently been a hot topic for the last 5 or 6 years. It's not going away ever. But the thing that people don't they get all excited when they get this box in the mail, yeah, I ordered it. Woo, I'm gonna take it. And they unwrap it and they get all excited and they wait patiently for their results, almost like that show or the commercial for the History Channel. Have you guys seen that one where the guy is going to the mailbox repeatedly?
Oh my God, I love it.
Result? Yeah, like that. So, he's a Viking. Yeah, he was super excited about it. But people wait to get the results. And the thing is, people typically aren't prepared for all the things that could potentially happen. Number one, of course, right, could potentially be identity issues. Like your family may have said, oh, we're Native American or we're this or we're that, and that just did not show up in your results. The other thing is you could identify siblings or closely related family members that you had no idea existed. In addition to the percentages not showing up, maybe one of your parents wasn't correct or both of your parents wasn't who you thought they were. There are a number of different things. So here's the first question I have for the panel. Were you prepared to deal with new and or unsettling information when you first started DNA testing?
For me, I really knew very little about my family at all. So I guess I could say I was prepared for new information, but not so much the unsettling information, which is still popping up. I just had a recently new discovery. So it just never ends. You're never finished doing your genealogy. And I just have to say nothing surprises me anymore, although I can still be caught off guard, momentarily.
I think
Anyone
I would
else?
agree. Yeah, I would agree. I was prepared for whatever unexpected, but so far I've only found what I expected. So I'm still waiting for something amazing to show up. But no, I wasn't probably anticipating or prepared for something unsettling to show up. But I'm still waiting for some sort of wonderful find as well. I think for me, probably the curiosity that I had the most, which a lot of that was resolved when I took the National Genographic test, which is the first one I took about 10 or 12 years ago, which gave you your original haplogroup. That was the first one. And then, of course, many of us, took other tests as well. And then with Ancestry, when I first started getting matches, and that was exciting. I was so excited to see all these people. But a lot of that has waned because it's not necessarily, except for the cousins that I know that I've either paid for a test for and they've shown up, or my brother, no real surprises there. I've been hoping to find just a fun new connection. Still waiting for that. But it's probably true that I did not prepare myself that something unsettling could pop up. And I had not thought about that. Thank goodness nothing has popped up unsettling.
Yeah,
Yes.
Nika, I was going to say, there was nothing that was shocking other than the fact that I grew up with just having my father, and then all of a sudden having something like 7,000 fourth cousin of Puerto Rican descent, or closer. So that to me was like the best thing ever, but nothing other than that. Just that little minor point, but nothing shocking.
Well, I was shocked. I'll admit it. I did not expect what I got. I didn't know what I was supposed to get. I, like Angela, also took the National Genographic back in 2005 and have taken every test since then, and now waiting on living DNA to come, but they seem to take a little longer, kind of like Ancestry when they first kicked off. It'd take 4 months or something like that. Mine's not due back till July, and so I'll patiently wait. But I've taken pretty much all of them. And I guess, not relying totally on the percentages and things, but that was a new eye opener for me. And at that time when all of that was coming, I also didn't know how to read it as far as calculating what came back. If I just think of grandfather, great grandparents, so on and so forth, then it didn't make sense at that time. So, it was a little different. I'm, now connected. I've got 4 African matches, and, I thought I just kind of died and was heading to heaven. So I don't know, because I'm looking for it because I see so much European. So it seems that more African and African Americans are testing now. So we should be getting more results coming up, and, for people to have more access. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Anyone else have any, were you prepared? Because I asked that question because the average person is just thinking they're going to get their pretty pie chart and that's it. Like they're not weighing, oh, my uncle went to Vietnam and had a baby and the baby's trying to find their dad. Like people do not think about this. Or, you know what? My grandfather was in Korea and I'm showing up with a close family match. What is that? This person is half Korean, or, you know, I mean, come on now. I mean, let's keep it real, you guys. Like, based on what I've experienced in terms of looking at my matches, looking at matches for clients and just other work, there literally is an uptick in the amount of biracial children that you can time to when civil rights legislation came down. Like, if you haven't like peeped your results yet, I want you to do a little study, right? Remember last week you had homework last week. If you didn't do the homework last week, here's your homework for this week. Look at your matches and literally weigh your biracial DNA matches that are adopted. I kid you not. The lion's share of them are going to be biracial.
Yeah.
And they're going to be born, you know, really like 1965 on. And a lot of them are going to have African-American fathers or a father of a different race. I'm waiting for somebody to prove me wrong, but every single time I say this, I'm proven yet and still again. And I say that because some of these children could be children of people in your family, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be a parent. It could be an uncle, it could be a grandparent, it could be a first cousin, and you might be their highest DNA match. But when you saw the commercial and you saw the pretty pie chart and you wanted your percentages, you didn't think you were going to tie back to somebody who was an adoptee. You had no clue. So I think the majority of us are really not prepared for that aspect of this. I think we're prepared for the pie chart. We're not prepared for the for the shine and the light down where nobody could see coming out.
I know I was.
Oh, go ahead, Willie.
I said, well, for me, I know I wasn't prepared for what I discovered. I was, hoping for, like you said, figure out, oh, what is my genetic makeup? And you never think about, oh, there could be an adoptee cousin trying to find a relative, and you have to, try to figure out how to help this person find it. So that was something I wasn't, I guess, prepared for. And even shocking matches, test results, I wasn't prepared for either. So, yeah.
I mean, and just from a raise of hands on the panel, how many of us have a story of a philandering man in your family that who could have bedded a lot of women in different countries and other stuff. So, you've grown up with that oral history. Why is it a shock that the kids are coming out in the DNA results? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know he was out there doing his thing.
I had a female show up on mine, and it would have been a niece. I called every one of those brothers. She's born in Utah and living in Oregon. I called every one of them. Who was last there? Who was there? Wait a minute. Y'all got to understand. I got this woman that is a high match, just like my other nieces who I know. And she's coming up. One of y'all have a child out here. Fess up. It's time. It was incorrect, though. It was incorrect. And it was a mix-up in Jed match. That was the only thing, because I thought, wait a minute, one of these boys that went out there and had a child, we don't know about it. And I was telling my mother. But yeah, it was the kit numbers got crossed. She had just gotten her kit a year, and my brother's kit was 2011, and she got the same number as my brother. They immediately fixed it and apologized because they caught it and could see what had happened. Because I was panicking. Yeah.
Well, that brings up a very important point, though, is that when you extract your information from the original proprietary website and you upload it to things like GEDmatch, DNA Land, whatever else to do further analysis, you have to be sure that what you're getting in terms of the product is correct. So I remember, Shelly, you reached out to me, you reached out to True. Like she was freaking out, but you know what I mean? But that goes back to say, you know what I mean? Make sure that everything is there. And of course, especially if you're using GEDmatch, make sure that you read those new terms of service that they just released a couple days ago. You can't even get through on the website unless you accept the new terms of service for GEDmatch, which that's a whole other show that we got to talk about that. Yeah, it's
Nika,
a major. Yes.
I wanted to add too that, even though we say pa, not pa, and we all focus on the men, it's not always the men.
Correct.
And in my most recent discovery, it's actually the women who were playing around and, popping out babies, and they weren't by the husband in two different cases. So, pa not pa, but sometimes pa not pa is misbehaving. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you have a number of different scenarios where that could play out, especially when the woman had a child at a young age and potentially her family felt she was too young to raise the child. So then the child was given to an aunt or another family member, and then the child is raised thinking that those are the parents. Maybe they legally adopted them, changed the name. I mean, there's a number of scenarios that you can find, but by and large, I would say, can we go on record to say 90% of the time it's the men?
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think
I don't know if it's 90. I think the more we get into this, just like Renata's saying, I think you're going to see some more women coming up. Just
this is so new and so fresh that I can't even tell the whole story, but it's like it's my grandmother, and it's just, you just would never have thought certain things,
That's because she got holy in her older years. Don't you know that? Everybody gets holy in the older years, and you know that instead of wearing your shirt like this, you'd learn how to, get yourself. I'm telling you, y'all look. I'm serious.
I'm okay doing it's. I'm okay with 70-30.
well, the chat room.
I just think it's gonna end up being like a 50-50 type thing because we don't know.
Shannon says that it's not 90, but if that's because he's got a Y chromosome. That's why Shannon is not.
I don't have one, do I?
Neither do I.
Well, okay. So can we agree? Can we agree on 70-30?
Yeah, we'll just say it's more.
Just say the men are out there a little more 30.
Not 40.
Those Freedmen's Bureau papers I was reading today, there was a lot going on in there with the women also.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is,
there's a case in Augusta County, and I have pulled the record for the research, and it was the husband that was filing for the divorce, and the witnesses had to tell on the wife. And they were telling each of the men that were staying in that house when he was out there working on the train, going out across country. And this is in the 1880s and this, that, and other. They were telling on her, even called her a Jezebel, said she was not being the wife type Christian woman she was supposed to, and named the men that were coming up in the house, and babies were being born while that husband was gone. So that meant pregnancy and being born. So he was gone. That woman was a mess.
Ellen, go ahead and comment on your thing. And you see Johnny come Janice come lately.
Johnny come lately. I saw her creep in there.
Janice come lately just came on there, a little blue shirt. We'd like to welcome my soror, Bernice Bennett. She's just smiling.
She'll get it. I have been in the chat room.
That's what I was saying.
I have been in the chat room. I just want you all to know.
Okay. Yes, she has been here. She has been here. Ellen, where were you? I want you to talk about this scenario you just posted before I ask the next question.
It was a situation that someone told me about in Puerto Rico, and this is when there was still a lot of sugarcane being grown. And the supervisor on the land would not give these men work unless they handed their wives over. No woman, no work. I don't know what happened, how many children came out of this. I don't know if anybody would ever find out later on that that there would be this nexus of relationships that all go back to this one man. I don't know, but I was really struck by how it's not even just an individual situation, that it could also be a very different coercive situation for people involved. That's also really unsettling. It was a very unsettling story to hear.
Well, then you have to also weigh that, especially when you're getting these matches, right? Like if a person is adopted, we can't always assume that it was, oh, this person, their parents just loved them so much that they wanted them to have. No, maybe the woman could not handle having a child as a result of rape. Like looking that child in the face every day, not feeling disdain, not feeling anger or hurt or pain or being reminded of the scenario. Like those are things that we have to consider when someone says that they're an adoptee. And the other piece of that is you have to be mindful of that for people in your own family. When you bring these scenarios up and you bring up this child who's taken this test and they just want to find their family, you may be drudging up some really emotional situations that your family member may have gone through that they have maybe put back in the recesses of their mind, or they don't even want to talk about it. So, so those are things that we need to, that we really need to be mindful of, and that's the thing, not just for us testing, but if you're administering kits for other people and you're testing them, when this box cracks open, there's a conversation that needs to be had. And really, it needs to be had before the box cracks open.
Yes.
It's just be transparent. Yes, we know you want great auntie's DNA. We know that. But if her child told you she had a child out there and you have the knowledge, when the child shows up in the results or the grandchild shows up in the results, don't act surprised. Don't act taken away. They were honest with you, just as you need to be honest with them. And so I guess my question now, we sort of kind of moved into this, is what are some of the first surprises you encountered? Was it, the time honored, my Native American percentage was not as high as I thought it was going to be? Was it my European percentage was higher than I thought it was going to be? Was it, oh my gosh, I have a first cousin I knew nothing about, or I have a second cousin I knew nothing about? What were some of your first surprises?
Me, oh, go ahead, Teresa.
No, one of my first surprises was I always knew my background was like triracial. I didn't expect my African and European to be almost equal amounts. So that was a little surprising.
For me, it was the amount of European. Obviously I'm light skinned, but I never just really thought about it before. And my DNA, I first had done, I think it was 2009. It may have been 2010. And at that time, before the numbers got fine tuned, they had me at 40% European. Now it's been fine tuned down to about 34 now. But I was just really shocked because I hadn't really dug into that part of my ancestry yet, only on one line, but apparently I have it on several lines. And it took me a while to come to terms with that and to really just accept that, because this was before DNA had become a fad. And that was shocking to me. But I've got it now. I'm handling it now. I know where everybody came from. So that was a shocker.
Well, for me, it was finding. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Willing.
Oh, okay. It was finding my paternal grandmother's family. That was the big one for me. Especially finding her father's family, which in finding him, I found two of my grandmother's sisters that are still living. So that was a big shock for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Well, for me, I mean, first of all, I was not surprised with my composition at all, the ancestry composition. I just expected it to be what it was. And the one thing that did surprise me was to come up with a first cousin that I didn't know existed. And it ended up being one of those kind of conversations where we got into talking about the emotional side of DNA. In fact, it's because of this first cousin I started talking about it even more, because it was not an easy thing to go through. It was a surprise. And I tried to go gently through the process of trying to figure out why we didn't know. And once we came to a meeting of the minds and acceptance, it became a very wonderful experience.
I would like to add that I have discovered a half first cousin through DNA testing.
Wow.
I've discovered a second cousin through DNA testing. In fact, she gives me permission to tell her story because it's almost unbelievable. But this particular second cousin does not check. As I said, second cousin, meaning we share great grandparents. She does not check African American as her race. She checks white because that is what her parents told her. But in her heart, she knew that her father was different than the rest of her siblings. And she waited until her mother died for her to do DNA testing. And the test revealed that, yes, her father was Black. And he happens to be a first cousin of my father. And recently, who we thought her grandfather was, who would be my great uncle, is not that person. It's his brother. So it's either his brother or his nephew. It's one of the two. So the story's getting really interesting, but just imagine having to process that. You've lived your entire life white. Your whole life. You are in your 50s. This is not somebody who's in their 20s. She's got grandchildren. And she's finally confirmed, because her parents refused to engage her in conversation about this, that her father is Black. And it's a huge range of emotions that people go through. And in some ways I feel like, maybe this is false equivalency, but I think when people discover a new ethnicity as high as being African, that is almost as challenging as accepting rape or slavery for some people. Because it's, well, gosh, they think about maybe how you've treated other people, or, how you live your life, how you address certain things when you see things on the news. There's a lot of emotions and things that get intertwined with this. Anything else before we dive into my next part of the show, which is going to be Ask BlackProGen?
I think we're good, Nika.
Quiet as church mice.
Yeah.
Quiet as church mice.
Well, I just want to say something, Nika, before you get into the scenarios, is that when we're approaching people to take a DNA test, we do need to be very honest with them and really talk about informed consent so that they can understand just what may happen when they receive those results. And I feel that sometimes people are so anxious to get as many family members tested as possible that they don't give them the full scenario of what just might come up. They may discover that the person they thought was their cousin really is not their cousin. Or they may discover that the sister they thought was a whole sister is a half sister. So I think they have to make some decisions about, what are you going to disclose once those results come in, and how are you going to handle that? Because we still need to think, do no harm. Sometimes people will get the truth and feel, I got to tell it. It's absolutely a must. But we still need to think about, will this information cause harm to this person? But before you even go there, you need to sit down and say, this is what you're getting ready to take, and this is what may come out of those results.
Yeah, we need to have a Hippocratic oath. That's do no harm is a piece of the medical community. It's the oath that you take when you become a doctor, when you get your white coat, or when you're a nurse. Like you say that you're not going to cause harm to other people. So I think we all definitely need to subscribe to that. And you know what? Don't be messy. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I agree with you. Don't be messy. Don't be messy, because you see some really messy stuff going down.
People just do it. You know what I mean?
Mean people.
Yeah, I want to out her because blah blah blah. And it's like, I heard of a scenario where somebody was going to tell a child that was adopted that their mother was not their mother, and that was not their job to tell.
Exactly.
I agree.
Who came down from on high and bestowed you the adoption whisperer? That's what I want to know.
Thank you.
Like, was Jesus like, you know what, baby? He was in the book. He was like, okay, so on this day, Bernice, you gonna tell everybody they adopted. Who came down and said that? Who? Now, it's a difference. To me, it's a totally different circumstance if the adopted person came to you as the family historian and said, look, I've heard this story, that story, XYZ. then you use your discretion. But if you are just messy in general and want to keep up drama in your family and want people questioning and blah, 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 and just so you can feel important, because I think some of this has to do with people wanting self-importance to hoard the information, and, you know, people got to come to them. But don't be messy with this. This is people's lives. Right? This is not a soap opera. This is somebody's life. This is their livelihood. This is their identity. And when you make it like it's the Real Housewives of Atlanta or those, you know, the Kardashians or whatever, that trivializes somebody's life. Would you want somebody walking up into your life? Oh, well, you know, that ain't your daddy. Are you the adoption whisperer? Why are you mad? You didn't get the family reunion last year? Come on now.
No, but that's the truth. True. And you, as the family historian or the genealogist or whatever you choose to call yourself, you need to think twice before you open your mouth. And I think the point that Bernice was making about there needs to be a conversation, whoever you're, you know, going to ask to do that test, and they got to get themselves a little bit prepared for that. I mean, you really can't prepare, but they need to have some knowledge that something could come back. Because just back in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of teenage girls, and I'm saying my era, having babies at 14, 15, 16 years old, and having to be shipped off to the auntie in Mississippi, Alabama, California. Then all of a sudden they come back. Or in the city I grew up, we had a home for pregnant girls, teenage girls that went, you know, and things like that. But that was a hidden story.
But didn't they get sent? They got sent up to y'all from where I was about to say the story on our end. If you lived in the South, they got sent to,
they got sent to the north.
Yeah,
but up in the north, they went out west. Or
I went out to California to have mine.
It's like
California, you know, in Michigan.
The great pregnant teen migration.
Yeah, they were going in, you know, anywhere away, and it was always to the aunt, you know. And
well, it was the auntie,
yeah.
And when you started showing, and it's just crazy because I remember when I was in high school and there were people, you know, girls who would get pregnant, and when I was there before you started showing, they carted you off to the continuation school.
You were not going to be walking the halls.
You could not walk the halls. And I remember I had a girl that was in my class, and her mother was like, "Oh no, you will not take my child out and put her in continuation school," and she stayed there until she delivered that child.
They walking across the stage now.
Yeah. So it's interesting we bring
just
this up
different
though.
In time.
Yeah, because I think the teenage mom migration, like, has anybody done research on those homes? Right.
Well, BlackProGen Hospital we did in Grand Rapids. Yeah, I did actually, because it was down the street from my house, not far. Yeah. And I was always curious because I had friends that went there. So.
Wow. Well, let me throw the scenarios in because it's going to be, I can see people's faces now. So just so you all know, the information has been obscured for the people that have posted these things, but these are real scenarios. And panel, I want you to weigh in. Oh, there's Shelly taking her drink. I want you to weigh in with your thoughts. What would you do as a family historian or researcher in these particular scenarios? And there are several of them. All right, here's the first one. I had to inform my brother that a young man he insisted wasn't his, had a daughter that took the DNA test that was extremely high match to me. DNA tells the truth where people cover up the truth. So this person had a brother who allegedly had a child. The young man came to him. He insisted that he was not his child. And that same potential son had a daughter that took a DNA test and showed up as an extremely high match to the person. What would you do in this scenario?
You need to tell him.
Yeah. Wait, what is my role first? What is my role?
Exactly.
That's you got to get that straight. What is my role? And you need to understand what your role is, your own self, and what responsibility you have, because sometimes you're doing stuff for clients, sometimes it's family. You're going to wear that burden. Is it a brother? Am I the sister?
You were the sister.
And how many brothers? Just one brother.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna need y'all to stop trying to add color. Just take the comment as what it is.
Yeah, tell
How
them
many siblings? This
it's her
is
brother.
not Ask Mariah. This is just the scenario is the
If
scenario.
it's my brother, we're
It's
going
her
to have
brother.
that conversation.
We're gonna have that
Exactly. That's
If
right.
it's my brother, I would talk to my brother. I wouldn't tell everybody else.
No.
I would go
I agree.
directly to the
That's
brother.
the brother.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm aware of a situation like that where they went to everybody else but the brother.
Just like I called each one of my brothers. Who was in Utah? What did you leave there? Who was there?
Mhm.
You know, right to them. I didn't have to say nothing to nobody else.
But we have to be sensitive because the brother may not know anything either.
Correct.
You know?
No, the brother. Nope. Y'all
Oh,
ain't
the
reading the
brother
news.
I read it.
She read. Now let me go
I
back.
read it.
Because y'all
I
wasn't
read
reading.
it.
You wasn't reading.
I read it.
Now let me look at this. I got to present to everybody, so everybody stop what you're doing.
Oh,
I'm
I
about to
got
ruin
that.
the image and the style that you're used to. Let's go here. I had to inform my brother that a young man he insisted was has a daughter that took the DNA test that was an extremely high match to me, as in the sister or the sibling. DNA tells the truth where people cover up the truth. So your brother knows this. He knows about this boy.
Well, I'm not going to
But
be
he
that
insisted that
friendly
he
to
was
him.
not the child.
I wouldn't be that friendly to him. I'd just spill the beans and say, look, you can't deny it. It's there.
Yep.
You can't deny it. And those are not just one person. There are two people who are affected by your denial.
Well, there are other people too. There are probably
exactly.
children from a marriage that the
He
brother
could be
may
married.
involved
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
there's a family. Absolutely. Just saying that. Is the brother in good health to be able to receive that information? Is that something that is going to change the trajectory of the family and its family structure in which he operates right now? So one has to really think about it as opposed to, hey, you know, you're the dude, here's the evidence. One must also think of the consequences.
Yeah, I think I've actually had a scenario where someone told me that a situation like this happened. Their brother was like 15 or 16 when this child was conceived and has since gone on and has a family and a wife, and him and the wife was going to divorce him over a liaison that happened when he was 15.
Wow.
Because she could not deal with that whole scenario. And as Miss Shelley says, that's right. How would you like to be told? That should guide your conversations. A to the man. All right. Second scenario. Make sure you're reading. Put your glasses on, y'all. All right. I uploaded my niece's raw data to GEDmatch, and it tells me she is a very close match to my husband.
Oh my.
Yes.
I'm clutching my pearls. And I'm not
Let me
hold on.
Here we go again.
Shelly got a glass.
Shelly, pass that around.
Okay.
Put it back up again. Okay.
Let me read. All right.
The next part.
Yeah, let me read the next part. So I uploaded my niece's raw data or raw DNA to GEDmatch, and it tells me she is a very close match to my husband. No, I don't think so. Besides, she looks so much like her father. Her mother and I are identical twins, so she should match both of us with a high percentage, not my husband, who is only kin to her by marriage. Should I delete all kids and go back to Ancestry and download the raw data again?
I yield to the identical twin on the panel.
That's right. Bernice,
We actually, you know
with
what?
it.
We're unique, you guys, because we have two sets of identical twins as panelists. Linda is an identical twin, and so is Bernice.
Yeah.
Bernice, what you got to say?
I got to think about that.
So here's his scenario again, okay?
Okay, give me the scenario again.
Scenario again. This we got to read these more than what y'all are having a hot flash over here.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put it back up.
Okay.
All right. You got
uploaded her niece's raw data.
Uploaded her niece's raw data to GEDmatch, and it tells you that she is a very close match to Mr. Bennett. Okay. No, I do not think so. Besides, she looks so much like her father. Her mother and I are identical twins, so she should match both of us with a high percentage, not my husband, who is only kin to her by marriage. Should I delete all the kids and go back to Ancestry and download the raw data again?
Yes.
Yeah. I think so too.
I would do that again just to see
Just
whether
to
I
make
got
sure.
a kid mix up with what I uploaded, because
Could it be?
she may have uploaded the wrong raw data from another
And there's
case.
another possibility.
Yeah, and I would check that. I would check it, double check it
Yeah.
first to make sure that I didn't
Yeah.
upload the wrong raw data.
If it comes back the same, I think that there's another issue on how one has to deal with things. Because my question would be,
Angela, I love how you're trying to be so diplomatic.
Somebody's been
Never mind,
creeping.
forget.
Somebody got the twins mixed up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying, you didn't let me finish. My point was that the tragedy could have happened if this woman who has the twin sister and all that has also had a child herself. There could have been a mix-up in that hospital.
True.
Think about it.
That is
Then
true.
that child would be highly matched to her husband.
Well, they would have had to have them at the same time.
Or what if?
Yes, true.
Because did she say that he looked like? Didn't the wife say she looked like the father?
Yeah, like who's supposed to?
Okay, so it could be that it could be her husband's brother, possibly, maybe a half brother or something.
Yeah, that is something I thought about too. Go ahead.
It could be.
College student.
Yeah. Before you jump to conclusions, you need to make sure that the right raw data was uploaded.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think I would get rid of the other stuff. I would just start another set of stuff.
Because you want something to compare it to, just in case there's something that happens. I think that's a good.
Don't destroy the evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think
but don't also start the rumors going.
Right.
And the innuendos until you really know what you're looking at.
Oh yeah, keep it quiet.
Keep it quiet. I agree. That's a good policy as well. And the other thing is, what if your husbands are related and they just don't know? As we mentioned, it could be half siblings, first cousins. Maybe there's a non-paternal event that happened with one of the fathers. I mean, there's a number of different scenarios, but I think the average person would freak out over that one. And that's a warranted freak out. So that one is.
I always wanted to be a twin. Just saying.
All right, next
moving
scenario.
on.
So I got an email from my top DNA match on GEDmatch, and she tells me that she's the daughter of a Korean prostitute who had many meetings with African-American soldiers during the Korean War. Her DNA shows about half Asian, half African. I have a funny feeling that I might know who her father is.
Okay.
Not sure if that's her role to go digging out and telling her who her daddy is.
True.
Again,
But
what are
just
the
saying.
consequences?
And what are the consequences? And you know, he might not know.
Yeah.
Right.
He may not be in any condition to process any of it if he's from the Korean War either.
That's not my role when I'm working with family or anybody else to say anything.
When you're talking Korean War, you're talking about someone, a child who is in their 70s or close to 70. So what are the consequences of shaking up this elder's world?
Well, it may not be shaking up the elder's world. I'm just going to go over the scenario of the 80-year-old man who stood up and stated that he discovered he had a 40-year-old daughter. And it was the happiest day of his life.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, you don't know what you're going to do, but certainly it may be something where you want to discuss this and ask him, is there a possibility that he might have a child? And then would he want to know more information? At least give him an opportunity to say yes or no.
The father of someone born in the Korean War would be in his 90s now, right?
Yeah, if they're still around even.
If they're still around.
If they're still around, they may be gone, right?
But they could have siblings or, you know, something.
True.
There could be some half siblings around there, right?
I say the best model, I think, in this scenario is probably, especially if you have somebody that's that old, talk to their caretaker. If they, I mean, because you here you go rolling yourself in the home or wherever you going, and you just gonna sit down and he may not even know who you are, or
Right.
you know what I mean. You got to be cognizant of the fact that the person might be suffering from dementia or
Yeah.
you know whatever else. And then I would just really tread lightly with this, because one of the other scenarios that I've seen that we haven't talked about is the reaction of the additional children the person has.
Exactly.
I've seen where the kids of the potential father freak out. Like I've seen where one child is like, yes, let's embrace this person. And some of the other kids are like, no, why are we trying to tarnish our parents' name?
Right.
You know? And so
Shoot, the grandkids.
that's what come on, Willie.
Yeah.
Shoot. Because they have bronzed grandpa or grandma. And then here you come with a chainsaw or a metal solder, a hacksaw, and you then came and took, you basically tore them down like a Confederate monument. It's all built on a lie. But I mean, come on now, I've seen that.
Yeah.
You have to weigh that all the kids are not going to react the same.
Right.
That's true.
Right. Right.
One of my situations involves an 86-year-old relative who I know now his father is not who he always thought it was. And I let two of his children make the decision as to whether or not he needed to have that information. They decided that there's no point because he absolutely adored his mother. And this is one of the situations I was just telling you about. So it's got, and the other thing is we don't know what happened. We don't know if his mother was raped. I mean, the first thing you think is, oh, she had an affair, but she may not have had an affair. She could have been raped or something else. So they made the decision and I have to respect that. So we've chosen not to tell him.
So. All right. Well, next scenario, because we got them. We got more. All right. I have matches that are African descent and have reached out warmly to them, offering to provide assistance and work with them. Neither have replied. I have gotten responses. This person replies, I've gotten responses for some, silence from others. It's painful, and so people do as they feel best for themselves. If I reach out, I will gladly share. So what do you do when you have African DNA matches or people of African descent who you've reached out to and you've offered to provide them assistance and they haven't replied?
I keep it moving. If people don't want to respond to me, I haven't lost anything. I didn't know them before. Right. Whatever. I work with people who work with me. I'm happy to call people cousins if they want to work together and find out how we're related. I don't care who they are. I'll do that. But I can't worry about those who don't want to respond. I'd rather put the focus on those who do, and that's just
But we're addressing this from the perspective of the descendant of the enslaved.
I think it's important.
And you gotta look at it from the opposite side.
Oh, okay.
What if you were a slaveholder's descendant, or you were a descendant of the white person in common, and you wanted to maybe atone for whatever the situation was, provide documents or something that this person may need in their research efforts? Would you be so quick to be dismissive and say, I don't want to waste my time?
No.
Well, I think it also depends. Just like we know with our own relatives in our own social circle, everyone is not a genealogist. Everybody doesn't have that as a passion. And I think the same way for a slaveholder descendant and seeing an African-American cousin, they have to understand that every person taking a test is not a genealogist. It's not looking for family. Some may warmly receive a person reaching out, and some have no interest at all. And some also, they are still feeling pain and feeling trauma. We spent 2 hours last week talking about trauma, and the trauma of slavery and the legacy is still real. It is still current, and many cannot deal with it without feeling that well of emotion. And no, they are ready, and it can be forced.
And I'll add to that because I just had a match pop up where the person was right next to behind the Confederate, in front of the Confederate flag, had a nice name, Chevy something. And I looked at that and said, I don't know if I should tell him. And I hear Angela. I was like, you know what? I don't know if I want that, because that presence alone is speaking in a way to me that, nah.
Well, and some things need to be left alone because it has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So that old verbiage about, you know, you always got to tell the truth. And James Morgan and I had a little debate on that, because he's saying you got to tell the truth. No, you don't have to always tell the truth if it's got a ripple effect to it. I got enough karma I got to deal with. I don't need to add more to other people. So I think when people are also ready, and if they think there is some, they're going to ask. And then you'll be there to give them the information based on what you know. It's just not time to flaunt this stuff. This is a whole new scenario for the world, actually. And even the black-white thing, the Indian thing, besides pa ain't pa thing, it's just a whole nother world. And I have a genealogist friend. She deep roots, very good researcher, pa ain't pa. She needed to know what to do. She had to handle that and kind of turn up the world upside down, because the genealogist, the researcher, wanted to tell the world, wait a minute. And then that other part of her, after it calmed down, said, wait a minute. They gonna get my mama. Wait a minute. Oh, wife. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to put my family through all that, and the other person and the people involved. It would have been ugly. So she chose to be quiet.
Well, you know what,
you said something that stood out to me. You don't want your karma cup to overflow with.
No, I don't.
So if you keep stuffing negative stuff into your karma cup, it's going to overflow with. So
can't go out like that. Can't go out like that.
Amazing.
Yes, I want to say this is a fundamental piece of communication that we fail to put in place. And that's first seek to understand, why are people testing their DNA in the first place? They will tell you
questions
exactly why they've tested their DNA. I mean, that's what I have done. Why did you test your DNA? And they'll say, I want to find family. I don't know my daddy. I'm looking for these kind of people. I want to know my admixture. And that's all they want to know. But there's no harm in just asking the question, because you may get the answer to take you to the next level with how you respond to them.
And I want to say, Bernice, you're absolutely right, because as more and more people test, you're seeing more and more people, you know, just want the admixture. They want to be anonymous. They don't want to, you know, have any contact with their DNA cousins, etc. And that's the reason why. And whether we like it or not, we have to respect it, because that was their decision to make.
Also, everyone
Ellen's up next. I'm sorry, then Angela.
Oh, I just wanted to say, it takes like what, 6 weeks to 8 weeks to do a test that actually can encompass decades and centuries of information, and it just takes time, and you gotta respect that, you know.
Angela.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, we've got to understand that everyone does not also fully understand the different reasons for taking the test. What do they see? Oh, I want to find out if I'm a Viking, or do I have my gele on straight, or should I wear my lederhosen, or should I wear a kilt, or whatever. That's what they see, and that's what they respond to from the ads. You don't see someone saying, oh, I just found out that this man I thought was my first cousin is, oh, this person is really one of my parents. Meet my new daddy, everybody. You don't see that on an ad. What makes many people test is the fact that, oh, I'd love to know what part of Africa my family is from. I would love to know, you know, if I am part whatever, you know, German or Brazilian or whatever, you know, pick a place on the map. And that's what they're seeing. That's the ad to get people to take. But the other consequences that are the surprise, I don't know anyone who's taking a DNA test because they want to find an unknown sibling. I mean,
Yes, they do.
Oh no, I've
Yes,
had
they
people.
do.
Some people
Yes, they
take
do.
it.
Tell me that.
Hear me. Hear my point. The point being that yes, some people do want to know because they're looking for someone that they already know. I've heard that I have a brother out there.
Right.
I'm hoping this person's going to show up. That's different
Mhm.
than a person who's, gee, I'd like to know if I really am part Irish or I really am part Nigerian as opposed to Kenyan. And then, oh my God, what's this? They're not taking you to find out if daddy's not daddy. That's not why for many. And
Mhm.
so I think we have to just understand that many come into the DNA community with, good expectations, just like you asked at the beginning. Did you have certain fears of some revelation that was going to surprise you? That never occurred to me. I just wanted to know, okay, where in West Africa are my folks are, and are my Choctaw folks going to show up, and how much? That's all. And,
Part of the
I've been
casino.
lucky. I've had nothing devastating.
Well, I mean, I think you're right. I think, but there also is. We have to also consider the reconnection stories that come out in the news to be publicity
Sure.
for DNA testing,
Every day.
and those are the ads, so to speak, using the term loosely. Those are the features that do prompt folks who may have a sibling or who are adopted to seek DNA testing. So, you know what I mean? So it's kind of both, Angela, like what you're saying, like I think it's kind of both.
Well, you're right, because, for example, my cousin, I have a DNA match. We have no idea how we're related, but, she lives locally and we talk a lot. And, we have no idea. She was just taking it for fun. And she ends up with this super high match on Jen match. It turns out to be her first cousin. The first cousin took it because I know I have an American father. I wonder if I'll get a relative to show up. And it did. And, so the person she matched took it for a totally different reason. But a majority of the people, even in her circle, the one I match, are not taking it looking for a long lost relative. But her super high match took it to find a long lost relative. So,
Bernice, what do you want to add before I go into the next scenario?
Nothing. Keep on going.
Okay. All right. Here's the next one, and it piggybacks off of this one. I have to rant and vent. I logged into my first cousin's ancestry to check something for her and contact a few people on her behalf. Reading the disingenuous responses from white people really upsets me, claiming they have no connection to her because their family is of German descent. If there is no connection, why are they showing up as her third and fourth cousins with matching Europe West ethnicity? Personally, I don't contact white matches, but my cousin is the type of person who loves reaching out and establishing a connection. It just pushes my buttons when I see white folks pretending to act stupid.
That's not a pretense. No, they are acting stupid. But,
I don't think it's a pretense. I think that they are being who they are. I've had some to respond to me saying your surnames. I don't recognize your surnames. Well, what is that saying to me? You don't want to be bothered because no, you're not going to recognize my surnames. I don't recognize yours either.
And you will get racist responses. My people didn't sleep with monkeys. I mean, you're going to get that sort of thing.
Well,
that's not a surprise.
I would say I applaud her cousin for taking the time to educate people who need to be educated. And the fact that she herself would reach out to her matches, it provides an opportunity to educate people. I'm related to a lot of Europeans that are on my Irish side. Not too many people see the name Vega and think Irish. And so I'm always up front educating people, like my second great grandmother was a first generation Irish American woman. So my aunt, I'm 13%, my aunt is 30%. Imagine what my grandmother would have been, so there, I applaud the cousin. I'll leave it at that.
Well, do you guys, I mean, because there's a little bit of debate sort of going on in the chat room right now as to whether or not you do or do not reach out to your European matches.
I do.
Right?
I
do you?
They all my family.
I do, and I have plenty who reach out to me first.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's no denying it. Especially
I'm
when
of
they
the
reach
belief
5 and 6, 7.
It's their loss not to know me.
There you go.
So because I have stuff that they probably don't know, and I get the rejection a lot. and I share. Here's my Facebook page, so they know what they're looking at and what they're dealing with. It could be my rants and waves, but I'm very honest with them if they ask me. I don't just go say, hey, you're my right ancestor or this, that, and the other. I treat them no different than I do my Black ancestors or cousins or matches or whatever. And if it comes to, because really DNA ain't got nothing to do with race. Nothing.
Well, yeah, that's what something I was gonna add in.
This is about blood, y'all.
Yeah.
And you know, so if they don't respond, fine, move on.
But how do you know? My going back though, how do you know you guys are related through the white line?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
exactly.
you can't be short-sighted and be like, even with your even with your African American DNA matches, you can't say with certainty that you're related to them through an African descended ancestor. I have plenty of matches, African descended matches that are related to me through Europeans. I have white related to Africans. So ancestors are ancestors.
Exactly. I think Leanthony Peck says they all my family, and Jay Shirt says my brothers and sisters come in all colors. So and it doesn't mean anything, the color.
And I was going to say, and you could be related to a European that has nothing to do with slavery. Like my line, my maternal line.
Mine are like that. Most of mine are like that. It was actually not even slavery. It was during Reconstruction. So.
Yeah,
Angela, Bernice, you guys want to?
Well, I just want to say, I mean, I've been really pleased with the amount of help my European cousins have tried to provide me to at least put me in a direction. One of them today sent me information saying, you know, it's our British Irish line. This is where I think we're going, and you know, just let me know if I could help with anything else. So, hey, it's blood. I mean. Some people may say they don't want to reach out, but look, who am I? You know, I'm not political. I am who I am, and race is political. Let's just look at it for what it is.
All right, we got 3 more scenarios. I'm pulling out all the stops tonight because I want us to have a full discussion. Because I mean, no, seriously, you guys, a lot of the stuff we're talking about, some people will be scared to reach out to us and ask. Like this last question about, I have African descendant matches, nobody's responding to me. Or, you know, actually the one we just did where, you know, I have, you know, white DNA matches are saying we're not related. I've gotten a not related. And I love our new little tree icons because I've put them on those ancestors that I had emailed Joe behind about that you tried to tell me we weren't related. And we related 75 different ways. But this is, like I said, this show is going to be shared with a lot of people because they just want to hear from Black folks about their thoughts on these things. Hey, let's keep it real. All right. Next scenario. I want to do genetic testing, but when I mentioned it to my mother, she acted upset and alarmed. Both of my parents are multi-generationally mixed families, and I wonder if she, quote, fears what the testing is going to reveal.
You know, that's serious. And it's really, I know we're kind of laughing, but that's not a laughing matter there. That's serious. Mama got something hidden back there.
As you giggle.
Well, if you say you're multi-generation mixed family, like I come from both sides, it's only, you know, it's going to be something, a lot of everything's going to be popping up. So what are you really fearing? I don't get that.
Okay,
unless someone said they were one thing and thought they were one thing only, and then something else pops up. But if you're telling me that you always knew you were multi-generation mixed family, are we talking you thought you were 2 things and you find out you were 3, or you thought you were 3 and you find out you're 1?
I think it's you were 2 when you found out you 1. Bernice?
Yes, I just want to say, listen, people are going to have their fears. And so if you're going to reach out for them to take the test, go back to the whole informed consent, explain to them what will come out of the test, and then say, do you have any questions? Now, if mama is afraid that she's going to be outed because for her ethnicity or something else, then reassure her, you know, what you're going to do with the results. And I think that's where you have to have a level of communication and trust. And if she tells you absolutely not, I will not take this test, don't push. Back
Well,
off.
I think the person who posted the message didn't say that they were trying to get their mother to test. They want to take the test. Mom is alarmed. Mom is alarmed because, and for whatever reason, she has a right to live her life, and she's living it within one particular ethnic context. And she knows that there are things that will be different. Mom already knows that. That doesn't stop this person from taking the test.
Exactly.
But I would not reveal the results to mom because mom is clearly living in fear.
But going back to the question, I thought they were acknowledging that they were multiracial for generations.
Yeah, that's the person who posted it.
I still don't think that has anything to. Yeah.
What were you saying?
Yeah,
I don't know if that really has anything to do with it, if it's multi-generational or.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
No.
The fact is that mom has one narrative that she wants to say, this is my narrative, this is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, she's mom. Let mom stick to that. You're the one who's curious. You're mom's child. So take your test, but you don't need to go back to mom. Now look, you've been telling me this. No. Again, what are the consequences? Mama's going to now live in fear that you're going to go and tell everyone that she does not want to know this single little factoid. And we can almost all guess what it probably is. But
we already know that. And I'm thinking
of not only that
to begin with. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of somebody who was we Creole. And the kid gonna find out. This is what it's speaking to that to me. Like, and here's the thing. Maybe I'm just crazy. In my family, that's what I did to my mom. She got the results. I said, Mama, look at this. Did you know you were 40% European? She was like, what? Oh, now when they have conversations about biracial people, my mama be all up in it because that helps her. But my mom's not fragile. You know what I'm saying? She's not delicate in that way. My mom would be like, whatever. Whatever. Okay, that's what the test said. All right. And then she would use it as textual evidence in a later conversation as to why she would be an expert on something. That's what my mom would do. But not everybody's parents are like that. And if your mother's a delicate flower and she is holding on to her narrative and she doesn't want to feel like your grandmother's a liar, because that's what Angela says in classes when she talks about Native American research. You know, I'm not saying they lie. But somebody may have lied to grandma. Renata.
Not only that, there's a chance that maybe the mother, maybe she's not the father's child or something. Like it might not even have anything to do with the ethnicity. That's right. But the mother knows something that she doesn't want the child, to find out. So, but I was going to say exactly what Angela said, that, you know, I'm assuming she's an adult. So if she wants to order a test, she can order a test and she just doesn't have to disclose her findings, his findings.
9 times out of 10, she's going to do it. And I'm saying reveal what she finds.
She may.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got 2 more scenarios before we get into Ask Mariah. I talked to my paternal grandmother today. I didn't grow up around her or know my paternal side at all, but she is excited to DNA for me, gave me a lot of info. Sadly, not all of it was good. My great-grandmother, Cora, was a product of rape. Her mother was African-American woman and her father was white. My great-grandmother absolutely despised her white lineage, so much so that she didn't like white people at all, even though she had blonde hair and blue eyes. Although it's a terrible way to feel and experiences to go through, I'm embracing my European ancestry because without it, I wouldn't be here. Not everything in your ancestry will be rainbows and roses, but I'm more than willing to learn more of who I am. I'm thankful to my grandma for accepting my request to test. I will send her an ancestry kit first and then 23andMe, where we've talked about rape a little bit. But, you know, this kind of sort of harkens back to that last scenario, right? Of someone maybe not wanting to know or it's uncomfortable.
But doesn't it sound like there's a little bit more time with this second scenario than the other one? You know, that, and I think that makes a little bit of a difference. And also the person is very receptive and they want to, they're excited about learning more, whatever it brings. So that's really different.
I quoted the other day on Twitter that the one thing that slavery did not take from the slaves was the DNA.
Mhm.
So it will come. It will come as more and more people keep testing. You're going to see more and more connections, and hopefully positive type connections, whichever side it's coming from, because it's a narrative and a talk that needs to happen.
Oh, definitely.
You know, just needs to happen. So that's one thing. That DNA is not lying, and you either accept it or not. You make up anything you want to do, but it ain't lying.
I think that if really, truly, and honestly, our DNA results are a first person account of the atrocities of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. We may not have a slave narrative. We may not have found the inventory or the deed that the person is on, but literally all of the dirty laundry and things, that all the stories we've heard at family reunions or hushes or whispers or any of those things, DNA is unearthing that stuff where folks would swear that we were lying, or, you know, as we say in the Bay, putting 2 on the 10 about stuff, or you know what I mean? The DNA is really rolling out the red carpet to that. And that is what I think makes people uncomfortable, because it's the same thing as what we're seeing now, all the wild blacks that are happening, barbecuing while black. This latest thing this week where the guy had a branch on his window and they pulled him over for vegetation on his window. Pollen. You know, it's, I mean, yes, ridiculous. You know, the young man that was harassed and harangued at Waffle House because he was gay. I mean, and the fact that that's just not coming out, right? All of these things where people are saying, well, the president has emboldened folks. No, we as people of color know these things have been happening for the longest time. We've been saying, but nobody believed us until we brought out a phone and we have the proof to film it. And then even then, people are still debating it, which people do with DNA as well. You can't be related to me. Well, what do you mean? You sent your kid off to a third party. I sent mine. They analyzed it with the proprietary algorithm. And then you're going to try to tell me that I rocked the system? No, you got to see what happened before the video. Doesn't matter. That woman's 65 years old. Why did they throw her to the ground? It's the exact same scenario. I'm telling you, it's the same thing with school shootings. I actually just said this on social media. There's never a right time to talk about slavery. There's never a right time to talk about school shootings. There's never a right time to talk about your ancestor raping me or raping my ancestor. There's never a right time to talk about gun control, the Second Amendment. It's the exact same thing. The issue is we're not talking about it, or people of color are, right? But the progressive left and countless others are so scared to even engage on it because of the guilt that's associated, to we're at a standstill. So let's just not talk about it at all.
The fact that it's pure truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So let your results speak for themselves. That's all I have to say about that. But anything else y'all want to add before we get into the last one and ask Mariah? I just had to get that out because that drives me crazy.
There's one thing for people to be able to have that dialogue with the white people that are acknowledging and finding out and willing to share. And I think blacks will not respond back to some people as well. And it's not just white, but because I have a friend out in Oakland, she has found 80 of the slaves of her, who her ancestors, their descendants that her ancestors had. She's saying, come find me. I got information. I want to share this. You know, because when she found out that was her, she felt that was her role to be able to help one of those descendants or whoever, you know, and it's here in Fluvanna County. So not everybody's going to be negative. Some will be. So work with who's willing to work with you.
And Renata, I have a similar situation with a white woman from Ulster County, and she has a historic home that she did the research, found out the enslaved people, and is trying to get in touch with the descendants. And she's made every attempt. So again, I applaud people who are out there doing it and trying to further someone else's line. And like I said, it's all about communicating, all about just helping people. You know?
Yeah, because the records and everything else have been hidden so long. You know, go ahead and reach out to someone. Take this episode with you. you know, when we're over with,
Yes.
and reach out to someone. I think that's one thing you can take away from this episode. I know I try to do it, and if anybody contacts me and wants to ask me how you should approach this and your DNA matches of color, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I want to add as well too, don't just research your enslaved people.
Correct.
When you get that inventory, right, just as these, white descendants of the slaveholders are trying to, say the names of the enslaved ancestors and finding the descendants, don't be so narrow-minded and tunnel vision on your own genealogy till you forget the 50 other people on that inventory. Where did they go? Where are their descendants? Did they intermarry with your family? Have you put out enough cookie crumbs to try to lure them in with your tree or your blog posts or whatever? I think we get so, like, for me, I don't know if anybody else was like this, but when I first started doing slavery era research and I wasn't finding the slaveholders of my particular family, I felt a duty to still put the information out for all the slaveholders and the slave names that I was encountering, because I just felt like I've been given this gift to find them. And if I just hoard them in my files and no one else discovers them, like, what does that mean? And here's the other thing, especially if these people are on the same inventory indeed as you, how do you not know where? At least just document that. Don't just, sift out your folks. Oh, it's the $900 and the $500. What about the $1,000 value slave? What about that baby, that was there? Don't forget about the other slaves. Don't just be so tunnel visioned. I mean, this goes both ways.
What about the old man who was a slave of no value?
Yes.
What about him? What about him?
For those of us representing folks in the North, I have always done community-based research, whether enslaved or recently freed, self-emancipating or whatever. I just think we need to call the names when we see them and we come across.
Call their names.
Speak their names.
And I try to post things that I find in the groups I'm in and on Facebook for the different communities. I just posted something today for Halifax, North Carolina, when I find documents that give genealogical information about the enslaved. And so that's another way to share when you find something that might help someone else.
All right, last scenario before Ask Mariah, and True is getting her fan on. DNA testing reveals a lot of things, some good, some bad. I received an extremely high DNA match recently. As soon as I looked at her tree, I knew exactly how we were related. She was happy to connect with someone from her father's family because she had never met him. Her father left the family when she was only 18 months old. I'm vexed as to whether or not I should put her in contact with her dad. I know exactly where he is, but I have never met him either. I don't want to start a war within the family, but I can relate to this young lady because my story is similar to hers. Any advice on what I should do?
Just ask the dad. And then
He doesn't know,
if
right?
he says no, I don't know.
Are they
Doesn't
sure? Are they sure?
I thought the original question was that she said she didn't know that her father.
Well, no, that's the thing.
knows.
The person said she knew who the girl's father was.
Oh.
Right. But
She just had never met him before.
I'm just
Okay.
saying, is that fact?
Yeah.
Yeah, what evidence does she have to support that she knows that is the father?
I'm not.
And if she doesn't know the man, so she's not in it. That's not her story. That's not, it's not, hello, you are my father, I am your daughter. It's, hi, you have a daughter and I know who she is and I can put y'all together. That's not her narrative. Especially if she's never met the man. She doesn't know this man. She's a stranger to him.
Just
She
the
cannot
same.
be the catalyst to put father and daughter together when daddy doesn't even know her, although she feels that she knows that this man is the father of this person. She's not in that exchange.
And again,
something
going
that-
back to the
Yeah,
original thought, what's your role? What's your
What's your
responsibility?
role? And that's
Yes.
a perfect example of what is your role.
Yeah.
He doesn't
It
know
ain't
you
mine.
either, so why should he trust your revelation?
Correct.
Especially because she said she had a similar situation. So do you come from two brothers where the situation where they both were kind of out there? So and you know, then you got to weigh in. Is it like the scenario we had earlier where the dad doubted that was his daughter?
Right.
You know, and he left at 18 months. Was it because she started looking like somebody else and he doubted that was his child? I mean, that happens. You know, I mean, we got to be real. I mean, you think about every possible scenario. Think about yourself in the situation. What if you were a person, a man who had a child, and this child looked nothing like you? And the child just did not exhibit characteristics.
Because mama can be lying.
Exactly. And it's more likely that the mother kept the baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Than the man did, you know?
Right.
So I think, I would say tread lightly. I would say if the person who posted has publicly available information like a phone number or address for the guy, I would maybe pass that information on to the match, maybe. But I wouldn't do more than that. And
you know,
the other
thing
thing
is writing a letter of introduction, but you cannot be the catalyst to have the two of them meet. You think you know the man, and you may be correct that he is the father, but to now enter his life, and you're a stranger to him as well. So what? Again, what are the consequences?
Well, you know what you're talking about skill. Somebody has to have the skill to be able to get in that role. I mean, that's why you have these intermediary services that can help bridge the gap between the two individuals.
A professional. Yeah.
And if that person has the skills and knows someone else who can kind of help bridge it, because what she's saying is she doesn't know the person at all. So it's a stranger to her. She needs to really examine just what her role could be. She might be stepping into something that she can't handle. Especially, and you know, it just depends.
I would ask, because that's the thing. She says she didn't know him.
Right.
I wouldn't. Does she know his kids? Does she have an established relationship with them? Because I bring that up because I had a scenario where I knew the man well, knew him well, phone number, knew everything about him, but he was deceased and his children were still alive. So I had 5 of them that I could call and give the information to about the new sibling. I chose to call who I felt was sort of the leader or the one that they all listened to. I called that one and I said, you guys figure out what you're going to do with the information. It is out of my hands. I'm done. So I would ask in this scenario, if she's not familiar with the you know, who the potential daddy is, does she know maybe one of his children or maybe even a sibling who could perhaps be that intermediary, you know, to make the connection? Because think about it. You're a man, you live in your life, and all of a sudden here you are 50 years old, 60 years old, and here comes this girl or, you know, a person saying that they're your child. You're gonna question that unless you remember being with the mama. And hold on. And some men don't remember being with the mama. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that. Then there's when we talked about the wife. I've seen 80-year-old women contact a lawyer thinking that the newfound child is going to try to ease themselves into a will or oil rights or heirship.
Which is also what a lot of our European connections are concerned about when they hear from us.
I think we want the keys to the house and where's the silverware.
But we built that. But we built it though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we built the house.
But I do want any photos.
My great-grandparents did.
I do want the documents
you
and
did.
photos. You know,
built it.
you can keep the silver. Give me the photos and the documents.
You built it. The people who built it are in your DNA.
But I think that is part of the blockade that we were referring to in one of the earlier posts. There's that fear of reaching out. And, you know, it's one thing to say that you have a DNA connection, but I have people who are African American with whom I'm connected via DNA. We don't know it. You know, we have a cordial, but it doesn't mean I'm coming over for dinner either. It doesn't mean we are close cousins. And it doesn't mean that, you know, hey, shall I bring the macaroni and cheese for Thanksgiving? It doesn't mean that.
I want jollof rice.
Well, jollof. Oh, I do make that for Thanksgiving.
That's
but
what I'm saying. You know. That's what I'm saying. You
know I do.
That's what I want from you.
And the moi moi. But the point is that it doesn't mean that you're now obligated to make room for this new cousin. Oh my God, we're matching now. And oh my God, what? This, and of course there's that big fear, the big R word. Oh, they all want reparations, you know. And a lot of times, you know, hey, reparations, you know, but it's true.
Yeah, I had a long discussion on that Saturday. It's a headache. And we didn't agree, which is okay.
That's
which is
true,
fine.
but it can't be left out of the equation when you're talking about all of this.
I know.
That still has to be on the table as well. We're not going to take anything off.
I will say this before we head to Ask Mariah. I had two cousins that I took around our family, you know, land, or, you know, where our family it came from. And I took them back to the place that our family was enslaved. We've only had this information like a year. My cousin lit up a cigar on the spot and smoked it. And I said, I laughed because I was like, if this is not the most boss thing I have ever seen. And he was dressed in a suit because we had just come from a funeral, and he looked so business and so professional. But I bring that up because we had a whole conversation about ownership, and, you know, the fact that you have to put your feet on the ground in places in order for you to get familiar and to put yourself in those places and spaces and to experience those feelings, feel the, you know, the wind on your face, and, you know, smell the smells and do all those things. And it's like, you know, the conversation we had was, you know, nobody had to pick the tobacco to make that cigar for you. You bought it. And this is almost like an atoning for everything that has taken place. And when it comes to reparations, you know, he asked me, same cousin asked me questions about, you know, what happened to the family. And I said, you know, I can pinpoint descendants of the slave owning ancestor that got a law school education paid for because of the third's interest that he bought on our ancestors. It's not a hyperbole. It's not oh, you guys got rich. Oh no, I can pinpoint when you all first started going to college because I saw the payment terms for when for the payment of my ancestors. So when you push off reparations conversations, make sure you vet your stuff, because you might have one of those. Anything else before we go to Ask Mariah?
Let's go.
All right, everybody, it's your favorite time of the evening. Ask Mariah. This is the part of the show where you, the viewer, submit your questions, queries, conundrums, and more to the panel, and we weigh in live with research help specifically geared towards you. Panelists never see the queries beforehand, so you get a chance to see us work together live to help our Genia buds get past their brick walls. Tonight's query is from our buddy Karen Galloway, and she is definitely in the chat room because she's always with us every single time we have the show. Here is her query. She says, looking for my great-grandfather. We do not know his name. His daughter, Elnora Jones, is my great-grandmother. Elnora was born in 1894 in St. Francisville, West Feliciana, Louisiana. Elnora had one child, my grandmother, Mariah Pearson. Who is Paul? So she really is trying to find out if Paul's not Paul or who is Paul. So we've got Elnora Jones, great-grandmother. She was born in 1894. She had one child, Mariah Pearson. We're trying to find out who Elnora's father is. She does not know where the Jones name came from, if it was her father's surname or if she married someone with the last name Jones. Most times in the census, she is Elnora Albert. Albert is her stepfather's surname. I love that auntie pause we just had.
I realized I wasn't on mute.
It's okay, True. You fine. Everybody's emoting. It's okay. She's done DNA. Her mother's done DNA, and uncle have taken DNA tests. They've done ancestry DNA, 23andMe, FTDNA, or Family Tree DNA rather, or my heritage. All family has taken DNA. It is on GEDmatch as well. So we're trying to find Elnora's father. This would be great great grandfather of Karen Galloway. Remember, we've tested a mother, we've tested her uncle, we've tested her. And Elnora is supposed to be a Jones. We don't know her father's name. She was born around 1894. So she was born during the black hole, as we refer to it, where there's no census. You've got to use other documents to verify relation and etc. And Elnora had one child, MARIAH Pearson. So my first question to Karen is, Elnora related to you on your maternal line?
She in the chat, she said the birth is 1886, not 1894. There's a discrepancy.
Okay.
I just saw she's in the chat room.
So yeah, that's still black hole. That's
right.
Still we don't have a census to account for.
Also, when did Elnora pass away? How long did she live?
Okay. How long did Elnora live? So first question I had was, is Elnora related to you on your mother's side?
She said yes.
She said yes. Okay. And then we want to know, how long did she live? Next question.
What is the family story
about the father?
Mm-hmm.
If there is a family.
If there is a family story, what is it?
Okay.
And have they triangulated? I'm always going to ask this. Have they triangulated any of the DNA matches from her mother and her uncle or her grandmother?
Meaning, did you find matches in common between the uncle and the mom? And I would also ask if there was an additional family member tested who was also a descendant of Elnora, so that they can isolate her particular DNA. Because having closely related people like an aunt and an uncle, there's no grandparent to test. How do you know what DNA came from mom and what came from dad? Okay, so she died in 1943. Let's see. She said there's a triangulated person with the last name Porche. This is so South Louisiana. Goodness
Very
gracious.
much so. Yeah, I have some Porches too.
Who don't have Porches once you get down in the heel and the ankle and the toe of the boot?
Right in the neighborhood too. Mm-hmm. Who's living up and down the neighborhood? Have you done any cluster research?
Cluster research. Angela asked, was there ever any kind of lodger in the household before 1880? Because the lodger could be your father.
That could be Pa.
Pa could be the lodger. Birth certificate. Oh, Kim, no, baby. Not in West Feliciana. Unless you're talking New Orleans, there is not going to be a birth certificate for Elnora. That's not happening.
But there could be a marriage license where Elnora could have put her father's name on it.
Yes, that would be there. Mm-hmm. That would be there. But then the complication is, does she go under Jones or does she go under Albert? You'd have to look for both. And West Feliciana
that's true. Yeah, that is true. Mm-hmm.
West Feliciana has great records. Me and Bernice know we've been there.
We've been there. Mm-hmm.
Karen says she does not believe she is a Porche, but here's the thing. Her father may descend from a Porche. His mother may be a Porche. So you can't rule out that you're not related to Porches.
I just asked the question, why do you think she's not a Porche?
Yeah.
Neff said, I love the lodgers.
Lodgers tell a great story. We could do a whole show on the lodgers.
Show on lodgers and boarders.
And boarders or concubines. Actually, it could be a unique census designations. That would be the name of the show. I've seen concubine listed. That was one of my personal favorites.
So she was an only child, but then she had several children of which there's some naming patterns in those children that may imply that they're coming from the father's side of the family.
Neff Hawthorne asks, is the family Catholic? Great question for this region, because you're looking at Catholic records.
Lots of Jones in the neighborhood. Matches seem to be Banks and Sterlings, if y'all saw that.
But that's more West Feliciana.
That's West Feliciana. Yeah, that's the base.
That's like Smith.
Yeah,
that's like Smith down there. unfortunately. I would say, like I said, if Elnora has any descendants of people in her family, if she doesn't have any siblings, do you have any other descendants from her, as in your mother or uncle's second cousins or first cousins that you could test to isolate out the DNA from your grandfather and your grandmother? Because you're going to have to go further out to be able to kind of, sort of recreate her genetic contribution to you guys. The other thing you have to be careful with in this area is the level of endogamy is on like 50-11 down there. So there may be some situations where people are showing up higher than they're supposed to, because there was a ton of intermarriage with people in that area. She says she's non-Creole, just Black. She said Barrow, that's another West Feliciana last name. I'm so sorry, Karen. Oh.
I have a question. In 23andMe, my mother and I are both in there. I don't have my dad's DNA except for my brothers that tested, autosomal. But 23andMe shows me my mother's, because they have it.
Amazing.
And then it also shows my dad. And even though we basically don't have it there, but it does a chart, where that shows a half of my mom and then my dad's side. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know if that would help in this scenario based on what you guys are asking to rebuild, because they're both in the same database, and 23andMe picked up immediately, well, everything you got left is your daddy, and here it is.
Yeah.
And so showing the example.
I think that would help, especially if there was a significant amount of like maybe European DNA, perhaps. I think that would help. And that's just using the process of elimination for
right.
And then on 23andMe you've also got the mother side, not mother side, so that could help inform some of the matches. She says she has a strong DNA segment that she is researching that she believes belongs to Elnora, and she said yes on 23andMe. I would you have to expand out for some of these things. You know what I mean? And in some ways, look at your highest matches that come from your mom's side of the family and really work their trees out. And I think if you get back far enough, you just may find the smoking gun. I would say usually when I have matches and they're within that third or fourth cousin range, maybe even fourth cousin range, and the names don't pop out to me immediately, it's because either I or they haven't researched their tree back far enough. So the information is out there. It just is that, somebody's got to reach back far enough. Okay.
Should she also test them Joneses, since you read something about the Jones? Remember, the Joneses were in the neighborhood, and then Joneses was on that first slide or something about Elnora Jones, and they don't know where Jones, but there's a lot of Joneses. Could she not get people, I guess, in the neighborhood that are Joneses, test to see if there's any connections?
Only if they're related and trust her. I mean,
well, you don't know. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Interesting.
Yeah, I would, as a matter of just thought process, I would probably, if Elnora has other children, test the descendants of those other children.
Right, that's true.
And then I would, from those leads, work their tree out and vet their information. And some of this, like I said, I had a situation that popped up like that for me where I didn't know my great grandmother's father or mother's name. I just had this slew of DNA matches from this one family, and they were all from Tangipahoa Parish, which is, still in that area of Louisiana. And the one document that I found was a marriage license. And I just searched out, like I knew somebody had to be a Daniels because all these people had Daniels. And I knew my side the woman had to be named Eliza. And it had to be within this time, this particular time period within 10 years. So I started just looking for marriage licenses, look for a man named Daniels within this 10-year time period. And I found the smoking gun and a marriage license that listed the bride's parents and the groom's parents. And that's where my smoking gun was. So I think some of this may be microfilm, or see if Family Search has digitized the West Feliciana Parish marriages and pick a decade where she should show up, or potentially a parent could show up, and just look to see what sticks. Look to see if, if there's a Portia who married a Jones, or some whatever combinations. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Any other suggestions? We got a couple current events, and you guys are getting sleepy.
Yeah, I gotta watch a movie before I go to bed.
All right. If you have a research brick wall and you would like help from BlackProGen scaling the wall, submit your query today for our Ask Mariah segment. The link is in the description of each and every episode of BlackProGen Live. Remember to be specific. Tell us everything you search so we don't duplicate efforts if you get selected. And cross your fingers when you press submit. You just may get chosen for one of our upcoming episodes. Karen says, okay, great suggestions. Thanks. All right. For current events submitted by our girl True. Her grandfather was lynched in Georgia 70 years ago. There was no therapy back then. 70 years later, Karen Brannon, the granddaughter, got to scroll up. In 1947, in Harris County, Georgia, an African-American man named Henry Pegg Gilbert was arrested and jailed without legal cause. 5 days later, a mob beat him to death in his jail cell. He was a deacon at Union Springs Baptist Church, as well as a respected landowner. He was arrested by the county sheriff on suspicions of Gilbert hiding a fugitive. There was never a trial or conviction. 70 years later, Karen Brannon, the granddaughter of one of the people involved in the lynching, and Sheila Moss Brown, Gilbert's granddaughter, have been brought together by their family's shared past. We sat down with the both of them to talk about their findings in family history research. The Chattahoochee Valley Episcopal Ministries held a memorial ceremony for Gilbert earlier this year in Harris County. So definitely check that out on NPR. Also, from the Montgomery Advertiser, yellowing court records from the arrests of Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. and others at the dawn of the modern civil rights era are being preserved and digitized after being discovered, folded, and wrapped in rubber bands in a courthouse box. Archivists at Alabama State University are cataloging and flattening dozens of documents found in the Montgomery County Courthouse, and Circuit Clerk Tiffany McCord hopes electronic versions will be available for viewing as early as late June. The records are being preserved include bail documents signed in black ink by King, who was arrested in March 1956 with Parks, and more than 100 others on charges of boycotting the city bus system in protest of Parks' treatment. I think the public ought to be able to see that, said McCord. It's exciting that it is happening. That's something else that's on the horizon. Next, lastly, we've got a podcast called Buried Truths. In 1948, 3 Black farmers decided they'd had enough. They were going to vote in rural South Georgia, where white supremacists held power by suppressing the Black vote. Pulitzer Prize-winning author, journalist, and Emory University professor Hank Kilbinoff explores mysteries and injustices of history through civil rights cases that few have seen. How far would white supremacists go on the streets, in the courtroom, in the legislatures to preserve their racial dominance? And most importantly, why? Who were we back then? The truth is restless, relevant, and revealed in Buried Truth. So be sure to check that out as well. I'm just going to keep going with announcements because the panel is falling asleep one by one. We've got a new look, new theme, more shows to get you all up to speed on things people of color, genealogy, and family history related. Visit whoisnikasmith.com for a downloadable schedule so you don't miss a thing. Learn tips, tricks, and more for researching your ancestors in the Sunshine State. Join us on our 59th episode of BlackProGen Live, airing Tuesday, June 12th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. There's been a call to share the links in the chat room, True, for the current events. Can you? Okay, she's on that because someone asked for that. Don't forget to tune into the long-running Research at the National Archives and Beyond, hosted by BlackProGen Life panelist Bernice Bennett, airing Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Also, check out the African Roots podcast hosted by BlackProGen Life panelist Angela Walton Raji. All right, and hold on, let me present to everyone. Okay, don't forget, of course, to join the conversation now. Participate in the live chat on YouTube to the top right of the screen if you're watching on a computer, and the bottom of the YouTube app on your mobile device. The chat room has just been going. Don't forget to weigh in on Twitter by tweeting us at BlackProGen or using the hashtag BlackProGen. And before we completely make it a quit for the evening, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to our girl True, who's going to go ahead and close us out.
Thank you, Nika. That was a great episode. I just want to thank everybody out there in the chat room and wherever you're listening from. We just want to thank you for coming out, and to the panelists, you all did an awesome job again. And we're going to see you next week. I guess it's what, on the 22nd, we're going to be doing people of color in Florida. So we'll see you then. Leave your comments on Twitter and in the chat room there.
Black.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Unapologetic Black and people of color viewpoint. The place where evidence tells the story.